Good morning, Honor CEA, and welcome to the parking lot design tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to design the outside of our library, and because there are a number of steps involved in this process, I'm just going to have the entire template or most of the template out at the very start. So you don't have any of this yet, or maybe you do, but if you don't, I'm just going to walk through what these different elements are. The very first is the ground. This is a Topo Surface. And to make one of these, all you need to do is head over to your top view, go over to Massing and Site, then Topo Surface. And with that selected, you're essentially going to click at 4 corners like I'm doing right now, except you want to click on the 4 corners kind of around your structure. So this is just an example of a Topo Surface. And if I hit OK, it's going to generate that, like so. And that should be fine. After you have your Topo Surface, the next thing you're going to need is the asphalt for your parking lot. So what you need to do is head over to the top view, switch over to Building Pad, and then you need to draw in, and I usually just use a rectangle, draw in the building pad, like so. Don't hit OK just yet, because by default it's going to the wrong level. So you want to make sure this is on the ground floor. You want to make sure that there's a small, or actually no offset's probably better, no offset between the ground and the parking surface. And you also want to make sure it's asphalt, so you need to go to Edit Type, duplicate a layer, and call this layer Parking Lot. And then edit the structure of the layer such that it is a site asphalt. So I would just go up here, type in asphalt, and look for this one. This is the one that you want to get you that appropriate look, in a sense. So double click on that, hit OK, 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 and then it should convert it to what you need it to. And since I already have it saved, I'm just going to do that. Okay, so we have our asphalt. That's looking good. Next, what you need to do is you need to put in 100 parking spaces. And parking spaces can easily be accessed just by heading to Parking Component, click on that, and by default you should have a 9 by 18 90-degree parking space. This is just a generic parking space that is 9 feet by 18 feet. So you need to kind of like place them and then place them apart from one another. And the cool thing about Revit, don't forget, is once you place a couple parking lots, you can actually just copy them and then paste them, and then maybe you have 2, and then you have 4, and then 8, and then you can really speed up this process just by like copying it every time you go. So definitely do that to speed up on time. Also, when you're putting in your spaces, try to think about the flow of traffic. How is traffic going to flow in your parking lot? If you don't have a flow, cars are just going to look for whatever parking space is available and try to get there however possible. I need to quickly mention also that for opposite or opposing parking spaces like this, where there's a space in between them, you need to make sure that for 2 directional traffic, you have at least 24 feet of space between the 2 lots. If it's one directional, you can have 12 feet, but for 2 directional, 24 feet, and we just use that as a rule to make sure that everything has enough space for at least 2 vehicles. If you're not quite sure how to make it exactly 24 feet, what I recommend doing is heading over to the Annotate tool. And you want to be on ground floor actually when you're doing this. It's going to kind of help with that process. But let's say we wanted to check that this was 24 feet. I'm going to use linear. I'm going to click at the end of one parking space via the end of another. And if you see over there, I have 24 feet set. Now, if you don't have 24 feet, don't click on this number and try to adjust it. It won't let you adjust it. It will only let you change this number if you click on one of the 2 parking elements. So if I click on this parking space, because I linked that dimension to it, now I can adjust this dimension. And yes, it's not exactly 24, but it's close enough, so that's fine. After that, you can type in a number. It might mess things up a little bit, but then just try to select your other parking spaces and get them to match up with the one that is dimensioned, and then you'll have a completely dimensioned row of parking spaces. But if you have a flow, or at least thinking of the flow, then that's going to help make this process better. For example, my flow kind of enters here, and then I have two-way over here and two-way over there, and so on and so forth. You can easily understand the direction of my lot. Okay, so put in those 100 parking spaces. After you've done that, what you need to do is add in one handicapped space for every 25 spaces you have. So 100 spaces needs to have 4 handicap spots. To get these, you need to go to Parking Component, Load Family, head over to Site, Parking, and then you should have the parking space ADA over here. And you also have this little symbol, which you can actually put on the parking spaces to make them more genuine. So it's actually a 2-piece process. For these handicap spots over here, there are 2 types. One's a 5-foot and one's an 8-foot. The 5-foot is designed for cars. So if you have a car, that's what you need a 5-foot for. And the 8 feet are for like larger vehicles like vans. So usually there's something that comes out of the van and you need a little bit more space so that you can like disbark your vehicle. Yeah, something like that. So put those in, and what I did were these were all just traditional parking spaces, and after I had placed them all down, I just deleted the ones over here and I applied these, and even though the spacing isn't 100%, it's pretty close so that it wouldn't be noticeable from a distance. Okay, when you have your parking spaces in this structure, the next thing you're going to have to do is put in your directional arrows to create the flow of traffic. The arrows can be found under Site Component, Load Family, Site, and then I believe it's under Logistics. Nope, it's probably still under Parking then. Yep, under Parking, we have a number of directional arrows over here, and you don't need to put as many arrows as I did. I just did that because it helps me kind of understand the flow, and it looks like I got a small issue over there. But you just need one like at the start of an entrance and at the exit of an entrance. So I don't know if you look at a lot of parking lots, but a lot of them at the start and at the end, they have an arrow kind of indicating, hey, you're at the intersection, this is where you need to go. So load in some of these arrows, put them in the program. They are pretty customizable, and if I was heading to the floor plan ground floor, I can show you that. You see the double arrows, you can actually flip the location, so it changes the direction. And if that doesn't work for you, you can also mirror them. So I could use a mirror and I could like draw in a opposite direction if you needed to. So between those two, you should be able to control all the arrows you need and create the flow of traffic around your structure. Okay, so do that for a little bit. And once you finish that, what we need to do next is add in some sidewalk. So sidewalk usually goes around the structure. If you have like a walking path, usually there's some sidewalk in front of a building, like so. And to put in the sidewalk, that is just a building pad on top of a building pad. So if you remember from the first time we drew the asphalt, next we're just going to go building pad again. We're going to make sure this is on ground floor, but this time we're going to put a 3-inch offset on that. And we're also going to change the material, so edit type, duplicate, create something called sidewalk. And you're going to edit the structure of sidewalk to be concrete. So if I just did a quick search, we don't want anything fancy. Just look for a basic concrete and use that as your structure. So if you do that, hit cancel, and you draw in, let's say this is my sidewalk, make sure that, yep, make sure that it's sidewalk. Okay, something else I should mention, depending on the flow of the sidewalk, you're going to have either 3-foot sidewalks or 5-foot sidewalk. So if you have one directional traffic, like people walking in only a single direction, you can get away with a 3-foot. If you have two directions of traffic, then you should make it 5 feet. Around my library, I actually just put all 5 feet, so you can walk in both directions. To get that 5-foot size, just click on the perpendicular line. It should have a height or a size over here, and you should just be able to edit that to whatever it needs to be. So now this is 5 feet, and if I hit OK, with everything else in, that's a strip of sidewalk. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Go ahead and add sidewalk wherever you need to do to your structure. After that, we need to add in a ramp such that we can get up that sidewalk if you are coming in via wheelchair. So on the ground floor, go over to architecture, then head over to ramp. And we're just going to make sure that this is going from the ground floor to the ground floor. And because our sidewalk had a 3-inch offset, I'm going to make sure there's a 3-inch top offset on this as well. And then we should just be able to draw in a little ramp over here. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to use the Align tool to align it to the side of my structure like so. And if I take a look at the 3D view, by default it has railing. If you don't want the railing, just click on it and delete it like that. Okay, and there we go. We have a ramp leading up to our structure. Okay, that's going to conclude this first part of the parking lot video. We're going to wrap this up in our second video. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Peace.